भूतेन्द्रिय अंत कारणात् प्रधानात् जीवशं नितात् आत्म तथा पृथक् दृष्टा भगवान् ब्रह्म शं Bhutaha, the five elements, Indriya, the senses, Antakaranat, from the mind, Pradhanat, from the Pradhan, Jiva Shamnitat, from the Jiva soul, Atma, the Paramatma, Tatha, so, Pritak, different, Drashta, the seer, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Brahma Shamnita, called Brahman. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Param Brahma, is a seer. He is different from the Jiva soul, or individual living entity, who is combined with the senses, the five elements, and consciousness. Purport. A clear conception of the complete whole is given herewith. The living entity is different from the material elements and the supreme living entity, the personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the material elements, is also different from the individual living entity. Again, the living entity is different from the material elements and the supreme living entity, the personality of Godhead, who is the creator of the material elements, is also different from the individual living entity. This philosophy is propounded by Lord Chaitanya as Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. Everything is simultaneously one with and different from everything else. The cosmic manifestation created by the Supreme Lord by His material energy is also simultaneously different and non-different from Him. The material energy is non-different from the Supreme Lord, but at the same time, because that energy is acting in a different way, it is different from Him. Similarly, the individual living entity is one with and different from the Supreme Lord. This simultaneously one and different philosophy is the perfect conclusion of the Bhagavata school, as confirmed here by Kapila Dev. Living entities are compared to the sparks of fire, as stated in the previous words. Fire, flame, smoke, and firewood are combined together. Here, the living entity, the material elements, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are combined together. The exact position of the living entity is just like that of the sparks of a fire. They are part and parcel. The material energy is compared to the smoke. The fire is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. In the Vishnu Purana, it is said that whatever we can see or experience, either in the material or spiritual world, is an expansion of the different energies of the Supreme Lord. As fire distributes its light and heat from one place, the Supreme Personality of Godhead distributes its different energies all over its creation. The four principles of the Vaishnava philosophic doctrine are Suddha Advaita, purified oneness, Dvaita Advaita, simultaneously oneness and difference, Visishta Advaita, and Dvaita. All four principles of Vaishnava philosophy are based on the thesis of Srimad Bhagavatam explained in these two verses. Om Agnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sijita Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagarajata Sagana Raghunatha Vitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण प्रधान सगना ललिता श्री विशाखावितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधाकांतो नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Once again, Bhutendriya Antakarana Pradana Jiva Shamnita Atma Tata Pitak Drashta Bhagavan Brahma Samhita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Parabrahma, is the seer. He is different from the Jiva soul or individual living entity, who is combined with the senses, the five elements, and consciousness. So, here in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, titled Execution of Devotional Service, Lord Kapila, as we see from the beginning of the chapter, is mentioning about this Ashtanga Yoga process, but Bhakti Mishra Ashtanga Yoga process. That how, while following this yogic process of Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, we can fix our mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and execute devotional service. And that's how we see in the beginning of the chapter is talking about different limbs of Ashtanga Yoga process, and then how through Ashtanga Yoga process in the stage of Dharana and Dhyana, we can meditate on different limbs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by doing so, a yogi liberates himself and his state of the mind, right? And this section talks about the understanding of the yogi, and especially last two words, yesterday's words and today's words. There is this wonderful comparison, analogy given between that, okay, there's a living entity, there's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then there's the material elements, right? Then combined with the senses, the five elements, and consciousness, right? And similarly, we see, on the other hand, the fire, and we have the flame, right? The flame or the sparks of the fire, right? Or we have the smoke, we have the firewood, right? So, um, so it's compared with this analogy, right? That how fire, which is the energy of the Lord, right? It's the energy of the Lord, and just like fire from one place distributes its light and heat, right? Just like fire from one place distributes its light and heat. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead distributes his different energies, right? Supreme Personality of Godhead distributes his different energies all over his creation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead's energies are divided into three sections, right? Antarangi Shakti, Bahirangi Shakti, and Tatastha Shakti. The Bahirangi Shakti is the material elements, material energy. The Antarangi Shakti is its internal energy. And the Tatastha Shakti is the individual living entities. Right? Tatastha Shakti is the individual living entities. Now, just as fire is distributing its light and heat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead distributes its different energies all over its creation. So then we have the sparks of the fire. Wherever there is fire, there is the sparks of the fire, this flame. So those sparks are part and parcel of the fire, right? Qualitatively, they are the same as the fire. But one is the spark, another is the fire itself. So qualitatively, the living entity are the same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the sparks of the fire are compared to the living entities, right? Are compared to the living entities. That they are part and parcel of the fire. Similarly, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mamai Vansho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, right? Qualitatively, we are one, but quantitatively, we are just a spark. We are infinitesimal. We are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we will never become the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And then we have, okay, fire, then we came as the sparks of the fire. Then there's the smoke of the fire, right? The smoke of the fire is compared to the material energy, the material elements, right? Which many times the spark, the living entity, is associating with it and thinking, though, like we are associating with our body and we think, oh, we are the body. So we associate ourselves with the pains and pleasures of the body without understanding that, hey, we are part and parcel of the Lord, and the purpose of the part is to serve the whole, the Supreme Lord, right? And that's where there is this dysfunction. We associate ourselves with the smoke, with the material elements, and through the agency of the senses, associate ourselves with the body. And as a result, we remain on the platform of, when the senses are satisfied, we feel happy. When the senses are not satisfied, we feel distressed. And in this happiness, distress cycle and this bodily identification, we remain ourselves in the sense gratification, right? Trying to satisfy our senses, and we fail miserably, but still we somehow or other, just like that drop of that honey trickles from that beehive, and that person hanging on the trunk of the tree is, though he is filled with so much miseries around him, he is feeling a little bit of bliss. Hey, no, there is this honey, not little bit of bliss, it's a flickering happiness. Bliss is eternal. It's just like a illusory happiness, right? So that's the smoke. And that's why economics in Srila Prabhupada nicely mentions, this is the complete, perfect conclusion of the Bhagavata school. This simultaneously one and different, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this philosophy, Achinta Bheda Abheda Tattva. Srila Prabhupada in the purport also mentions the other doctrines, Vaishnava philosophic doctrines. Right, there are four. We have the Madhava philosophy, which talks about Dvaita. Advaita is oneness, which the Mayavad philosophy of Shankaracharya propounded. But then there is a philosophy of Dvaita, which is there are two, not one, there is two, the living entity and the Supreme Lord, right? Propounded by Madhvacharya. And then there is a Vishishta Advaita, right? Propounded by Ramanujacharya. Vishishta Advaita. That, oh, in one sense, yeah, we are same with the Lord, but that is qualitatively, we are same with the Lord. Vishishta Advaita or Suddha Advaita, propounded by the philosophy of Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, right? Or Dvaita Advaita philosophy, propounded by Nimbarkacharya. And Mahaprabhu took two elements from all these four doctrines and gave his comprehensive Achinta Bheda Abheda Tattva. Simultaneously one, but different. Like the living entity. Qualitatively it's the same as with the Supreme Lord, but quantitatively it is different. The part of the body is to serve the whole. At no point one of my part should feel that, hey, no, means I am the whole. It cannot function by its own. A hand by its own cannot function. It has to serve the whole and at the same time get nourishment by the whole. Then only then the hand will function. Right. So that's the complete Bhagavata school philosophy propounded by Mahaprabhu of Achinta Veda Aveda Tattva. So that's how this nice analogy, and that's why it's mentioned. These two verses, Lord Kapila summarizes this chapter about the understanding of the yogi, right? Who performs this Bhakti Mixture Ashtanga Yoga process. Okay, are there any discussions or reflections on this particular verse?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Very nicely explained, Prabhuji. Because I was studying, I was reading and studying. So I got very nice clue now. Very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Prabhu, we often hear this analogy of the man on the tree,
Yeah.
and that's what the condition is of the material person.
Mm.
But similarly, a devotee who's in the material world has the same risks. He also is, on that tree, which anytime can fall off the branch.
That's true.
So what's the difference?
Good, wonderful. So the thing is, this man is hanging on the tree. So the material person is like that. Even a devotee of the Lord is like that. He's also hanging on a tree with all these miseries around him. The only difference is the person who is hanging on this tree on the material platform, he gets his drop of honey from the beehive and he feels, oh, this is all in all, right? He does not see the Supreme Lord on the other side who is calling out for him, which a devotee sees. The devotee does not become satisfied by this flickering, illusory drop which is falling from that beehive. Though the bees are stinging to me, my body, all over, if I'm still becoming satisfied just by this honey, then I'm also a materialist. But if I'm really beaten all over, and I see the miseries around me, and I try to find the purpose that, oh, is this the purpose of my life to remain in this illusory situation? Right? And when we start asking that question, the materialist does not ask that question. A devotee will start asking that question, that there has to be some higher purpose, not just that, oh, this uh, drop, sometimes it comes, sometimes it does not come, and no means it falls on my lips, and I feel a little bit blissful, while all over I'm being stung by different miseries of Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Atmika. The materialist does not even think about it. He just feels that illusion. Oh, it's so enjoyable. Oh, this honey is so enjoyable. The spiritualist thinks that, oh, this honey, the real honey, is trickling from the Supreme Personality of Godhead on the other side. Let me join hands with him in this process of yoga. And then he starts thinking, hey, if I am just hanging on this tree and Lord is there calling out for help, what are the different processes by which I can connect with him? Right? Why does a devotee spend time 2 hours a day, though it may be many times inattentive chanting, but he still spends time to chant the names of the Lord? Right? So, are you able to, did you understand the difference between the two?
Yes, Prabhu. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion, question on the same? Yeah? Yes, so more we can seek the help of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, more we can connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this process propounded by Lord Kapila, it's not just mere Ashtanga Yoga process described in Bhagavad Gita, but how through Ashtanga Yoga process connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? That's why it is Bhakti Mishra Ashtanga Yoga process. Right? It is not just Ashtanga Yoga process, Bhakti Mishra Ashtanga Yoga process, where after you control the mind, you are focusing your mind on different limbs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which does not happen on the just the Ashtanga Yoga process, where he controls the mind, and then he still tries to focus internally the Paramatma, right? So ultimately, Ashtanga Yoga process, the perfection is Paramatma realization. But the Bhakti Mishra Ashtanga Yoga process, the perfection is Bhagwan realization. Yeah.
Prabhuji, here they are differentiating between hearing the Par Brahma and seeing the Par Brahma. They are two different things.
Yes, hearing about Param Brahma, which is, what is Param Brahma? Is the Paramatma sitting within our heart, right? The Paramatma sitting within our heart. And seeing Param Brahma is the form of the Supreme Lord. The form of the Supreme Lord. They are one and the same. The name of the Lord is not different from the Lord. Right? The name of the Lord is not different from the Lord. The form of the Lord is included in the name. Right? But externally, yes, first of all, you focus on the name of the Lord. Then, in that name of the Lord, Because the Lord's qualities, the Lord's energy, the Lord's form, everything is included. It will manifest from that name of the Lord. Is that all right? It will manifest from that name of the Lord.
So when conditioned soul completely becomes unconditioned or free from the material things, then you can see the form of the God.
That's true. When he completely becomes spiritualized, when he starts thinking that, hey, no, I'm not the body, I'm the soul, I'm part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, let me connect to the whole by service. Going back to that analogy again, the person hanging from the trunk of the tree, let me connect to the Lord who is extending his help. Let me connect to him with this different yoga process. And ultimately, when I'm connecting with the Supreme Lord by chanting the holy name of the Lord, right, in pure bhakti yoga process, right, all my slowly the identification with the body goes away. The identification with the body goes away. Otherwise, we are identifying ourselves with the body and we think that that's all in all. This sense gratification, it comes from there because we are identifying ourselves with the body. But when the same sense is in connecting with the Supreme Lord is used in the service of the Lord, it becomes spiritualized. That it becomes spiritualized. Then that part and parcel of the Lord has its real purpose solved, that is serving the whole with all his senses. He's serving the Supreme Lord with all the senses. And then he's connected. He's no longer hanging on the trunk of this Sansara Chakra. He's connected with the Supreme Lord. He does not care whether, Lord, you may make me hanging on this trunk, or Lord, you utilize me wherever you want. Even while hanging on that trunk, he will start thinking about other living entities, right? How I can spread the mission of the Supreme Lord, right? So he thinks about other living entities. It's compassion.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Danvat Pranam. It is clear.
No problem. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hari Bolo. So, is that good? We can end here. We'd like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day. And we'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
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 Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Nrsingo, Jai Nrsingo, Jai Jai Nrsingo, Prahladesha, Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringam, Ugraviram Mahavisham Sarvatomukam, Nrsiнгam Bhishanam Bhadram Mithya Mityam Namiham. Nrsinga Bhagwan ki Jai, Prahlad ki Jai.
Jai.
Our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhu devecha
patitanam pavanebhayo Vaishnavibhyo namo
Jai
namaha. वैष्णविंद की
Jai.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रीला
Ki Jai.
की जय, बहुत प्रेमानंद
Jai.
जय,
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Madhuri. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. Hari
Krishna,
Bol.
everybody.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare